The Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge will probably be the smartphone to beat of 2016. When Samsung first announced the S6 and the S6 Edge with a premium aluminum and glass design, it marked a shift for the company, a shift to premium, quality products to ultimately compete with the monopolistic iPhone and iDevices in general. With the S7 and the S7 Edge, Samsung stuck with the same general design as their predecessor, but with some significant refinements in all the right places in my opinion. Most notably, the curved edges on the rear of the phone are curved similar to the Note 5 and the S6 Edge Plus from 2015. This seemingly uneventful change does significantly change how the device does feel in the hand. The sides feel less sharp and obtrusive, and it feels like you have more space to grab onto the phone when using it, even if that's not necessarily the case. With the curved 5.5-inch display, there's only a sliver of aluminum to hold on to the phone without touching the edges of the display. I'd say it's better than the S6 Edge, but it can still present some problems. The display forms a love-hate relationship, so when you pick up the phone for the very first time, you'll immediately fall in love with the display. There's really nothing to hate about a large 5.5-inch Super AMOLED display with a dense QHD resolution, with curves that give off the illusion that text and icons are floating or elevated. It's actually the curves that can cause some problems, such as some build issues, like how I mentioned it's hard to hold onto the phone given the small room for your fingers on the sides, but also some software issues, so it's actually more technically correct of me to say that the software has issues with the display. There is palm rejection built into the software to avoid unwanted taps on the screen, but it's not the best, often resulting in unwanted taps. But TouchWiz as a whole does continue to get better and better. The design is more consistent across the board with rounded square icons for most of the Samsung apps. Quick settings and settings icons, they're all round, they're all consistently round in shape and design. The notification panel is much more flat. The OS is more basic and just reminiscent of stock Android than previous Samsung smartphones, previous versions of TouchWiz, which I think is a very good thing for a lot of people. The Edge swipe and menu has been improved. It's wider, allowing more content to fit on every tab. So that means more apps, more contacts, more news. All of that is nice to see, and you can customize all the tabs you see here as well. Everything from news to weather to sports scores and music, you name it. Samsung has also added an always-on feature, taking advantage of the Super AMOLED display. When you put your phone to sleep, you can view the time, calendar, or just a pretty image of your choice, and it only affects battery life between 1 to 5% per charge. The S7 Edge is featuring the Snapdragon 820 quad-core processor with 4GB of RAM. Geekbench 3 spits out a single-core score of 2300 and a multi-core score of 5500, give or take. To be totally honest with you, I haven't experienced any lag at all. It handles gaming and web browsing like a boss. Now, what's neat is that if you use the Samsung Gear S2 from AT&T with your Galaxy S7 or S7 Edge, you can use AT&T's number sync feature, and what it does is essentially it untethers your phone from your watch. So you can receive calls and texts directly to your Gear S2 even if your phone is, far away from reach, or even if it's powered off. And if you're calling from your watch or your phone for that matter, it doesn't matter. Everyone will just see your name and phone number as if nothing is different. The biggest downside, I think, with the feature is that you have to buy an AT&T Gear S2 for the feature to be activated. You can't use any Gear S2 you purchase from a flea market, unfortunately. But number sync is an absolute must-have feature for wearables, in my opinion. I'm definitely glad to see AT&T implement it with the Gear S2. And even though the camera found in the S6 and the S6 Edge was stellar last year, Samsung decided to improve it even more. They've added a 12-megapixel camera sensor with an f1.7 aperture, phase detection autofocus, and optical image stabilization. It goes without saying this smartphone can capture excellent photos in well-lit scenarios, so that's all I'm really going to say about that. You can see the evidence right here. A couple things worth noting, however, is that the detail isn't quite as fine as the 16-megapixel sensor found in the S6 and the S6 Edge. So, if you crop a lot of images, you might actually want to stick with the S6 or the S6 Edge. However, low light performance has been noticeably improved thanks to the lower f1.7 aperture, and when it comes to actually capturing a shot on the fly, the dual pixel autofocus is there for you. It's the fastest autofocus sensor found in any smartphone, and it competes very well against DSLR cameras. As someone who uses their smartphone way more than they should, I found the larger 3600 mAh battery to be a major selling point. With the Doze battery saving mode built into Android 6.0 Marshmallow, I found the S7 Edge to last me anywhere between 7 and 10 hours of screen on time, which is excellent for a flagship Android smartphone. And this is with the Snapdragon 820 processor. If you're rocking the S6 Edge variant outside the US with an Exynos processor, you should get even better battery life. Overall, it's great to see Samsung took our critiques from the S6 Edge in the battery life department and, packed the S7 Edge with a killer, super large battery. Now, on the flip side, the most disappointing feature of the S7 Edge is with audio. Well, it's actually not all bad. It does feature high-res audio, allowing you to play high-res FLAC files through the headphone jack. But the bottom-facing speakers are pitiful. They are really bad, on par with the Note 5 speakers, but I would argue they're even worse. They're not very loud, and the sound appears to be very dirty and muffled. But that might have something to do with the fact that the S7 Edge, and the S7 for that matter, are IP68 water resistant, meaning you can completely submerge these phones in up to 1 meter of water for 30 minutes and they'll be totally fine. So if you take into consideration all of these features, there's really no reason for you to be thinking negatively of this device unless you're coming from an HTC phone with a dual front-facing stereo speakers and audio is your life. But even then, it has high-res audio support for the headphone jack and support for a micro SD card to load your phone up with gigs on top of gigs of music. You have a premium and now comfortable build, top-of-the-line processor with 4 GB of RAM, a beautiful display, a very capable camera, excellent battery life, and waterproofing as the cherry on top. This is the best smartphone on the market because there are so little compromises. The biggest downside is the fact that it is so darn expensive, coming in at nearly $800 off contract, $800 for a smartphone. Thankfully, you're seeing a lot of good deals from carriers. This is the AT&T Galaxy S7 Edge, which AT&T sent me, so thank you AT&T. That was very nice of you. They are offering the S7 and the S7 Edge for $0 down on AT&T Next, a promo that will actually end in early June. So if you want to check it out, if you want to check out that deal, I'm going to leave a link in the description for you. I'm also going to leave a link to watch our tips and tricks video where we show you how to get the most out of your shiny new S7 Edge. Links for that will also be down below. With that said, I'm BoHD from PhoneDog.com. I hope you enjoyed this review of Samsung's premium flagship smartphone. If you did, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're brand new. As always, I'm BoHD, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.